Hi, everybody. This is Jaden back with Avenue Financial, TMG, Avenue Financial out by Calgary, Alberta. Joined as always by my good buddy and my cousin, Mike Parkinson from DLC. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Jay.
That's great. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about something that doesn't necessarily have a ton to do with the mortgage, but causes a lot of consternation and confusion with our clients, and it is property taxes. And so there's a lot of different things to talk about here, and I'll just get started with basically the biggest thing that we find, and that maybe affects us more is that one of the things that clients don't really know when they come to us for a pre-approval is, well, why was my pre-approval slightly higher or lower once I found the property? Why could I afford slightly more, slightly less? It's because we have to take your property taxes into account when we're doing it. And so when somebody comes to me and I say, well, you can afford about $500,000 based on what you qualified for, and they say, well, how can you? Well, because I don't know the property taxes yet. Once I know that, I'll be able to tell you exactly, right? But more than that, that's just kind of the thing that affects us. But there's a lot of things that affects the borrowers that confuses them. So why don't you jump into some of that, Mike?
Yeah, and let me just add a little bit to that, Jay. So about the pre-approval. So I always tell, and I'm sure you do as well, my clients when they find a property they want to put an offer on, if the numbers are tight, I said, I need to know the property. I need to know the property taxes, so we can make sure that that's going to work. So that's just a little side
Yeah.
thing there. So property taxes can be very confusing for people because basically they get paid in Alberta at the end of June, kind of in BC same time, beginning of July, basically around the similar time. And it depends on where you are when you're purchasing, what time of the year it is. We'll discuss that in a little bit, but it goes from basically to July if you're collecting 1/12 for every month. But it actually, you're paying for that calendar year. So it's a bit confusing for people. So it's something that we got to explain. So basically, if you buy a house and it closes beginning of July, and the lender is going to start collecting, 1/12 of your property taxes each month with your payment, that's pretty easy, right? But let's say you're buying February 1st, then you're going to be behind because now they're just going to be collecting February, March, April, May, June, right? So just a short period of time. So you're going to be basically behind the eight ball. So a lot of things some lenders do holdbacks. Some lenders don't. So this is something that Jay and I will explain for your closing costs, that you have to make sure you keep enough money aside to either top up your tax account with the lender, or the fact that the lender is going to hold back those funds at closing, which means you have to have a little bit more money for closing costs in order to build up your tax account. So when they come to pay them that year, there's enough in there to be paid. So again, it's a simple thing, but can be very confusing, especially if you're not explained properly from your bank or other brokers about. Be prepared that this is something that you got to pay. So.
Yeah, and one of the big things is that we don't really ever know exactly how much you're going to pay, right? Because you can also elect to pay your own taxes. You don't have to do it through the lender. There's different ways to do it. But so you could set yourself up on what most communities in Alberta would call a TIPS program, where you pay
We
on a
have it
monthly
here, yeah.
basis. Yeah, same thing, right? So you pay on a monthly basis. You can elect to do that, or you could pay your taxes annually, right? And so one of the things when you're buying a home is you don't know if the current owner is on a TIPS program or if they've elected to pay annually. And so how does that affect you? So if they're on a TIPS, there will be, a calculation done by the lawyer. They've paid up to here. They pay on this day of the month. So either you owe them for this amount of days that they've paid, or they owe you for this amount of days that are unpaid. And it's a relatively negligible amount to get back on track, and then you get signed up for TIPS, and away you go. But if they do the annual payment option, it really depends on what side of that June 30th or July 1st, first Monday of July, whatever it is in BC, that you're on, right? So if you're on, this first half of the year, and they do it annually, well, then the seller is going to owe you some money, because they were going to pay from June 30th until January 1st, and then June 30th until December 31st. And so there's that chunk at the beginning of the year that they owe you for those property taxes that they haven't paid yet. But if you were to buy in September, well, they've already paid for the whole year. They paid from June, or from January to June, and then June till December. And so you might be liable for that, that September, October, November payment to them, right? So those are the things when we talk about closing costs. we just can't tell you until you've gotten your lawyer's gotten the instructions. They've talked to the seller's lawyer, and they've seen all of those things, and they start doing their statement of adjustments, right, to figure out exactly how much you owe. And so people sometimes can be surprised by that number, because it can be a relatively big number, right, Mike? The extra
Oh
couple of
yeah.
$1,000 that you weren't maybe expecting, right?
Yeah, huge. And so what I guess, Jay, that's a good point. So basically it's your lawyer or notary, whoever you're using, they're the ones that do all the adjustments on that. Jaden and like our job is to give you an approximation of what we think it's going to be. And it's not going to be
Yeah.
100% exact based on where everybody's at, like Jay was explaining. So just know that if you buy before June 30th or July 1st out here, first Monday in July, you're going to get a rebate back from the seller. That's how that works. Okay. But that means you still got to pay the entire property taxes for that calendar year when they're coming due. But if it's after that time, let's say you buy after the end of June, then you're going to have to pay back the seller because they've already paid the taxes for that whole year. So you're going to that's going to be part of your closing costs. So that's something that Jaden said was really important. And that's the main thing that we're trying to get out of this. And every lender is different. Every lender is different.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing about lenders and policies is making sure you understand what they're expected. Like some lenders, like I said, do a holdback. Some don't. Some will increase your tax payment just so you get caught up. Some will allow you to put a lump sum in if you're behind, that kind of thing. And if you do less than 20% down, called high ratio mortgage default insurance on a purchase, some lenders require that they collect the property taxes for you. That's their policy. So again, it's lender specific.
Yeah.
We know more once we know the lender where you're with and how their policies work. So if you have any other questions, happy to answer them anytime. Give Jay or myself a call or share this video with people that you think maybe a little bit confused about this. We're happy to go through it with you and explain it, because it can be pretty confusing for a simple policy. So anything else you want to add, Jay?
No, just like, even if I think we always offer this. We consider ourselves to be consultants. We don't have to, we're not going to close every deal with everybody. But if you're closing and you're talking about these statement of adjustments with your lawyer, and you're a little bit confused about where that tax payment is coming from, give us a call. We're always happy to talk through things with anybody, wherever you're at in your buying process, right? So. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next week, and can't wait to see you.
Thanks, Jay. Take care.
Hey, you too, buddy.